chat. With that, we'll bring in Digant Haria, who's the founder at GreenEdge Wealth, to discuss the financial services updates that have come by. Digant, good morning. There have been a bunch of numbers, updates that have come in from this space itself. What, according to you, was the one or two things that stood out, and what is it that fell short of your expectations?
Morning, Mangalam. Good to be here. See, I think there's not much to read in the results for this quarter because see, what has been plaguing the sector for last 1 year, it has been very, very tight deposit or liquidity, so to say, and the RBI regulations were also on the tightening side. Now, somewhere in January, February, we have seen a reversal of both of these things, which is, the RBI has eased its stance in terms of regulations, and RBI is focusing on liquidity and the global events which are happening. The dollar strength is weakening, the GSEC yields are down, the US 10-year yields are down. So all this is good for liquidity. So I think the results that you are seeing, okay, be it a Bandhan Bank or be it an RBL or be it, this Bajaj Finance, all these are indicative of a tight liquidity environment where there will be pressure on your deposit rates, cost of funds and minims. Not much to read there. I would say, from June quarter, you would start actually seeing some improvements in the numbers, both in terms of deposits and margins. So I think this is a quarter, Mangalam, where we just have to pass our time. Market has already rewarded some stocks. I think some other stocks will be rewarded in the coming 2 quarters. So, in financial sector, we'll see a good rotation happen, So, yeah, that's my opening comments, Mangalam.
Digant, morning. But when you look at do you think banking and the general consensus opinion has been that for a long time, actually, that this is a safe place and valuations are more reasonable, etc., etc. Although along the way, we've had so many accidents as well. So I've got to navigate carefully here. But what is your perspective? I mean, as a banking analyst and you're also, in a way, a macro watcher as well. Will it really play out? Banks as a good investment opportunity in an absolute sense from here, Digant?
Morning, Prashant. So I think, some of it has already played out. See, after 2 years of underperformance, it became a safe haven. And then you saw some rally in ICICI Bank, Kotak Bank, especially at a time when markets were not at all doing well. They, in fact, corrected 10-15%. So I think some of that outperformance is already there in the price. If I look at the larger ones, which is Kotak, ICICI, a Bajaj Finance or a Chola Finance, the best of the names, it's already there. I think we will see a rotation, like, in the next leg, you may actually see Axis, HDFC, the Bank of Baroda's, SBI's, the PSU banks, which will take charge. But see, all said and done, I don't think there's more than 10-15% kind of a macro rally there in the sector. Because, the villain of this sector, so to say, is the PSU banks. PSU banks are so healthy, alive and kicking that they will not let the private sector grow beyond that 12-13% or have margins which were very high in the past. So I think this sector is, going to be a low growth, low return kind of a sector. In current markets, it's attractive because everything else, the outlook is hazy. But yeah, I don't think big money is to be made. This is a safe haven, 10-15%, and that should be it.
So, Digant, just to take that point forward, and then there is the other big debate that's been raging, right? Whether fundamentally and structurally, the whole model of banks and how they make profits, whether that's coming under question because of the whole deposit issue, right? We had Uday Kotak tweet on it saying that banks are lending at rates higher or nearly higher than their cost of funds. So in that light, is the hope of banks leading the next bull market and, large private sector banks finally outperforming, is that hope a little misplaced?
Yeah, Surabhi, I think you're right that, I think the banking sector will help the index in not falling, but I have my doubts if it can help the index in actually outperforming and starting a new bull run. And the reason for that is simple, that the PSU banks are growing as much as the sector growth. The sector is growing at 10%. PSU banks are growing at 10%. So where is the room for that 15-18% growth? See, markets get excited, the valuations get re-rated when you have 15-18% kind of growth in incomes. I think that is very, very difficult in this environment. So which is why, I say that it is a rotation market. ICICI and Kotak, the valuations have gone up. So now Axis and, SBI and, these banks, HDFC have to catch up. After that, maybe microfinance will see some cyclical recovery. Then some regional banks, once asset quality problems are sorted, then maybe RBL and IndusInd, these banks can have some rally. But it's just like a rotation. I don't see more than 10, 15, 20% anyways in this entire sector. So yeah,
Okay.
you're right. Yeah.
Okay, Digant, your point's well taken then perhaps investors need to think about that and not get carried away with with some of those hope trades, so to speak. Now, what about NBFCs? Let's look at Bajaj Finance. Their AUM growth is about 26%. Stock has already done so well. It's the best performing stock in a difficult year so far, 2025, right? But again, do you see it really blazing the path in terms of growth? And let's not forget what the RBI said to Bajaj Finance just, I think it was yesterday, right? That letter of displeasure, quote unquote, about some of the outstanding issues on retail lending. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so Surabhi, this Bajaj Finance was a play on the middle class, the growing consumer middle class in India. I think last 10 years, we have done a lot of penetration, and this sector is no more that nascent sector. So Bajaj Finance of today will have a lot of volatility across the way. Last decade was a clean sweep. This decade is going to be volatile. I think a lot of the improvements which will come in the next 6-12 months in the NBFC space and Bajaj Finance, it's already there in the price. There is no big money left in Bajaj Finance at the current levels. And on your broader question, Surabhi, that what about NBFCs? I think in NBFCs, we should play cyclicals. So, right now, commercial vehicle finance is at the top of the cycle, so we should not play that. But microfinance is probably at the bottom of the cycle. So somewhere in 2 quarters, microfinance may start reviving. So I think you have to play cyclicality because structurally there is no big trade in the banks and the NBFC sector. So you just have to rotate. That's our view.
Thank you for your insights, Digant. Always a pleasure speaking with you. That's his view on the NBFC and the banking space itself. Interestingly, public sector banks won't let private sector banks grow beyond 10 to 12% was the key takeaway for me. Mitesh.